Hello, everybody. Have we seen the Bitcoin bottom? It's the question everybody's asking as the market's made a number of moves over the past couple of days. This week has been a super bullish week so far, and people are asking, actually nonstop, is this the bottom? Are we ever going to go back below, 3,500, or are we ever going to go under 4,000 again? There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of jubilation out there. I am sort of optimistic, but I think I'm cautiously and healthily pessimistic about a couple of things. But we're going to go over the total market cap, which is not something I've seen a lot of people do. And so I'm going to pass to Matt, the Crypto Traders Pro lead technical analyst, and we'll talk about the markets and see what's up. So what do you think, Matt?
I love to start analyzing the markets by looking at the total crypto market cap. This is going to give us a broad overview of what's going on, not just Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin is the leader. We get to see what's going on in the bigger picture. And I like starting with the total market cap. And I think this chart is actually pretty interesting. Right now, we've seen the volume. This is the most important thing. This volume lately has been almost as high as what we saw in the peak of the bull run in 2018. It hasn't quite been as high, but it's been getting up there. And we haven't seen this type of volume in about a year now. So that's a good sign right there, that this could be starting to turn around. I'm not sure if it's the bottom yet, but this is a good sign. And we're going to get some pretty good trading action, I think, over the next week or so as we near this key resistance level, which I think it has the possibility to break out of, right here at around 135 billion total market cap. So that's going to be the area to watch. And if we do break out of this level, it looks like the nearest resistance level, there's a pretty large gap right here, but about 35% away from the current levels. So at let's say about 175 billion. That's going to be the nearest resistance somewhere in this zone right here. So we could see a 20, 30, 25, 35% move across the total market. Now, this doesn't mean like each individual coin will go up 30, 35%, but we might see some coins go on a 50% move. We could see some stagnant. We could see some go on 200% move. It's all possible here, but the volume has been picking up, and that's what I really am looking for if the bottom is in. Where's the volume? Because that means there's people that are definitely buying down here. And it looks like we've already seen the worst. So,
right. It actually looks like maybe the total market cap set an inverse head and shoulders and then broke down and then set itself a higher low. Would you agree that that's what we're looking at on the?
Yeah, that was the pattern we were seeing pretty much across the board. Was that inverse head and shoulders pattern that was right here. So this would be the left shoulder, and then the right shoulder over here, and then the head right here. And usually this pattern does break out, and it failed it right here. Kind of rejected our resistance.
Faked out.
But we did set that higher low. So that's a really good sign to see, setting that higher low. And it looks like it's going to get ready to test this resistance up here, 135 billion. And if we do break, again, there's that large gap right here where there's not much resistance because we kind of saw that big flush. And then zooming out even farther, we see that this zone was acting as support for quite some time. So that's probably going to be some resistance overhead as well.
Absolutely. And what do you think? Will we be led out of there by a number of coins moving around the same? I know you mentioned, some of the smaller caps we could say go on big runs, but I imagine Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP will be, at least from a market cap standpoint, leading the way. Do you want to talk more about this chart, or do you want to switch over to BTC, or what do you think?
Let's move on to BTC, and very similar pattern. So that sharp V bottom, and then we have that kind of rounded higher low. And again, this set the higher low at about 3,400. Now we're just over 4,000, and it looks like that main resistance level is going to be between 4,200 and 4,500. That's really the area that I'm looking for to break, somewhere between these two levels right here. But Bitcoin's really been the laggard. I think BNB, a couple of these other coins, BNB, here's the chart right here. Actually, BNB BTC went on to set all-time highs the other day. So here's the weekly chart.
Wow.
And it just broke out the all-time highs. BNB USDT, that one we've seen increased volume as well. It's not at all-time highs because, back here it got the $30, and that's when Bitcoin was 20,000. So
right
now it's kind of making that comeback. BNB's been on a tear, kind of leading us out of hopefully the end of the bear market.
Mm-hmm.
And hats off to them because they've been out there pumping out updates and actually working towards building something.
Yeah, for sure. No, the Binance crew is definitely one of the busiest groups in crypto, much to the chagrin of the Digibyte community and a number of others. Anybody paying attention on crypto Twitter has seen quite a bit of tension going on between CZ, Binance in general, and the Digibyte community, who keeps trying to expose fraud, or what they see as fraud anyways, coming from Binance, given that they seem to be indicating that Digibyte cannot get listed on Binance because they are not willing to pay a fee to be listed. So interesting stuff in that regard if you're part of the crypto Twitter sphere.
Well, Binance is also trying to run a business, so if they aren't willing to pay the fee, then you don't get listed on the exchange. So
sure.
I mean, they can't do it all for free. I get the arguments on both sides, but all we could do is focus on the charts. And right now, Bitcoin, if it does break that 4,500 level, and this is what I was talking about last time with that potential inverse head and shoulders, the target would be 5,500, closer to 6,000. That would be the target from this breakout right here, somewhere in this zone right up here. So that's what we're looking at on Bitcoin. We want to see it break out past this 4,500 area. We've seen the volume kind of tick up a little bit, but it really hasn't been there for Bitcoin. It's actually surprising to me that Bitcoin has been the laggard when everything else has been kind of leading the way. Even Ethereum, this chart has rebounded much faster than Bitcoin. I had this is what I drew out several weeks ago, this potential Adam and Eve double bottom, and it actually ended up setting the higher low, much like the total market cap. Very interesting that these charts are all similar. But yeah, Ethereum has been also, it went on a 100% move right here from $80 to 170, back down to 100, and now it's up to 150 again. There's going to be some resistance around 165, and ultimately, we want to see this closer to the 200s, where there is going to be a ton of resistance. So I'm not looking to take any position on Ethereum right now.
No,
but the markets are moving.
Yep.
Litecoin, I think, has
the new market leader.
Well, yeah. Besides BNB, Litecoin and BNB. Litecoin, actually, I have this. What is this? The 200-day moving average. So I like to look at this as like the long-term, what's been going on over the past 200-day. A lot of people use 200-day moving average, and Litecoin is actually one of the only ones that has broken above the 200-day moving average. So it hit it as resistance right up here, about $47. This is actually my target. We had a signal in the Crypto Traders Pro community at $30. We have one at $33. Right on this move of that potential inverse head and shoulders. It came back down into this kind of sideways choppy zone. Then it had that big green move, next leg up, broke past 42 resistance, retested as support. Next leg up was just over 50. And it looks like it's maintaining this level so far as support. So we see that breakout, came back down, retested as support right at $50. But Litecoin, another one. Like, there's a lot of, like, this whole sideways zone we saw right here is going to be a struggle to get through.
Right.
It's not going to be easy. So it's another one. I'm not looking to jump in head first buying it right now. The buy was several weeks ago. That's when we called the signal. But now I feel it's a little bit more risky. It's a good thing it's over the 200-day moving average. That's good to see. It's the first time since it peaked over here in May, but that didn't last long. But last year, it's been very far below this line. So it's good to see that it's rebounding. Yeah, the only other one I wanted to go over was BNB, and I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. BNB is the one that is kind of leading the market. It's outperformed Bitcoin substantially, running to all-time highs, and now the USD chart, it's really starting to kick up here. But again, it's already gone up so far.
Yeah.
This was another signal, though, in Crypto Traders Pro Group. We got a signal on January 6th, I believe it was, at about 590, or right here on the chart. So this is, I already took my profits. I honestly did not expect it to go on this big of a run.
It's a crazy move. And it's creating a secondary ascending wedge. So it was in an ascending wedge. It broke out of that ascending wedge, and now it is creating yet another ascending wedge based on what I'm seeing. So
it's starting to go very vertical.
Yeah, it's getting that hockey stick pattern, that organic growth we're all looking for.
Well, they've also had a lot of hype news. The DEX coming out, or the testnet at least coming out over the past few days. It's all hype, and they had that BitTorrent airdrop a couple weeks ago, and didn't you need to have BNB to get that airdrop?
You know what? I'm not sure. The BitTorrent token trading pair I noticed was in the top 5 of total volume on Binance, though. So that coin is super hot. BTT, yes.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And this is something I don't love to trade these coins that are only a few satoshis. This one's only 25 satoshis. I don't like trading stuff like this.
Yeah, it's scary.
Not my favorite thing to trade, but BNB was the trade. And when you see the market starting to turn around, BNB is a solid bet for Binance, because if altcoins are turning around, well, more people are going to be on Binance trading.
Right.
That means they're going to need to buy BNB in order to reduce their fees, which I'm sure everybody does, at least a few BNB they buy. So it all makes sense. When the market starts to move, BNB is a good bet.
Yep. Very cool. So what do you think? Any massive predictions going into the next week, Matt?
I'm actually thinking we're going to break out of this. It looks like it tested this 135 billion. Again, this is the total crypto market cap. I'm not sure which coins are going to go. I'm sure if the total crypto market goes, this pattern is very similar to what Bitcoin looks like. It's very similar to what Ethereum looks like. Litecoin doesn't look the same, but all three of these charts and all three of the majors, they look very, very similar. So I'm sure if the total market cap goes up, Bitcoin's going to be right there. Ethereum's going to be right there going up with it. But right now, I'm just not feeling an entry. I think the entry is already kind of passed, and we need to wait for some sort of pullback. Let's get another higher low in. And on Bitcoin, I'd really like to see that breakout over 4,500. If we get that breakout, I'll be much more confident in the play, and I might look to buy some more Bitcoin, possibly start trading some more altcoins. Right.
So you'd want to see a breakout past 4,500 and then use 4,500 as a retest zone, or what do you want to see before you're cautiously bullish and maybe taking another position?
Yeah, I would really like to see this breakout over the 45, 42, this red box right here. So it's gotten stuck in this zone since November 2018, 42 to 4,500. And we come back down, retest that as support, and then we have the next leg up to 5,500. That would be my target then for Bitcoin right there.
Cool.
It's good. 30% move from right now. So it's very possible.
Not insignificant.
But last year, March was a very bad month. So I hope this year March is a much better month. I know April was a great rebound month last year. I believe EOS was leading the pack. So hopefully March is this push that we've seen the first 2 months, it keeps up. EOS is another one I'm watching. I think this one just got absolutely slaughtered. I remember playing this move last year with the Traders Pro Group. And getting out, taking the profits, and I haven't really touched EOS since, but man, did it get slaughtered. But there's another one. It's getting near resistance, and the RSI is hot. There's going to be resistance right around 420 to 450,
Right.
somewhere in this zone right here. We saw it acting as resistance a few times in the past, so I would only guess that it's going to be resistance again. Support right here, resistance here. It's going to act as resistance again, and this aligns perfectly with the overbought RSI. So I bet we see one more push on EOS, and then we could look for a potential shorting opportunity.
Yep.
This also is going to be aligning with that 200-day moving average resistance, which we know a lot of traders are also watching.
Yep, absolutely. So cool. Looks like good opportunities across the board for traders to pay attention before taking big positions. I was actually looking at over the last couple of days, I was looking at potentially shorting BTC at about 4,200. I decided not to, just because I got weak hands a little bit to enter the trade, and now it's just kind of hovering in that 4K zone. And I agree. I think we should pay attention, look for an actual breakout, retest, and or look for it to do something ridiculous and maybe break down again, because a good rejection off of that red box would be obviously a very bearish signal. So,
right. Well, the risk reward is in favor of the shorts right now. If you are a Bitcoin bear, which I know a lot of people aren't, but people have to open their eyes up to both sides of the trade. And when you're nearing resistance that hasn't been broken in several months, well, it's best to assume that it's going to hold as resistance.
right.
So if you are looking at a short position, you would be using 42, 4,500 as your risk, with a potential target back down to the bottom, which would be 34 to 3,200.
Yep.
But I hope it doesn't go back down there.
Yeah, more slaughter for the the not crypto chads.
Yeah, more people talking coin going to zero.
Yeah,
Not what we need.
Yeah, it's a terrifying prospect. But anyways,
do you think the ETF is going to save us?
I don't. I'm not a fan of the ETF at all. Personally, I'm not a fan of Backed. I think it's all completely unnecessary. I mean, it solves a problem that doesn't exist, and it's an arbitrary problem. BTC, all of the problems with BTC are created by the developers of BTC. So, looking to the banks and the big financial institutions to solve those problems, I think is unwise. I think it's a good way to get BTC slaughtered, frankly. And there's a lot of discussion as to what could happen, what would happen if there was another major rejection, or if something like Backed never ends up coming to fruition. And
didn't they delay it?
Well, it's been delayed. I don't even know what the status is on some of that now. There's been another announcement just this week, two ETFs or two ETF proposals. I believe one is the Solid X Van Eck again is back on the table, and we'll see. But I just don't see why it's necessary from a financial standpoint. The ETF on Bitcoin just doesn't really make sense as a financial vehicle. I understand why people want it, but I think it's really deeply predicated on a problem that doesn't really exist. So, but of course, I've been a big blocker for a pretty long time. That does put me in a minority position fundamentally, but I just think if Bitcoin's going to work, it should work as Bitcoin. It shouldn't need secondary network. It shouldn't need something like Lightning Network. It shouldn't need financial, big finance to come in and bail out Bitcoin. And frankly, I don't even know that I would call that victory. It would be victory for many people's portfolios, but it's not really the revolution that we were looking for with Bitcoin in the first place. So I have mixed feelings across the board. There's been discussion of a whole bunch of things. Is there a SegWit weakness? Is there other things coming? Is Bitcoin going to go to zero because its cryptography is going to break down? Same thing with Ethereum. Is Ethereum going to get destroyed by switching to proof of stake and therefore becoming a security? Is XRP going to get slaughtered by their federal investigation into whether or not they're a securities offering? There's still a lot that could go very, very wrong in the crypto markets too, and I think people need to understand that that's also a distinct possibility. We could end up having a landmark record high year in 2019, or it could be a major, major reckoning. And I actually sort of lean more toward reckoning as there's a number of things going on. All these low value coins, low hash power coins, I think they're going to start getting 51% attacked. And I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation of redundant coins and breaking out, stripping away of the stuff that we don't actually need so that we can use the stuff that actually has legitimate value. But
so do you think there's going to be like a big catalyst that we need to clear the bears, or what?
Not necessarily. I don't know that anything actually works that way. Like when we look at, like, let's look back at the the internet boom, the bubble. When the bubble burst, we saw things like Amazon drop like 90% of its value, along with everything else. And some of the stuff sat and consolidated for a little while in the late 90s and early 2000s until they just completely went away. And then it wasn't until they completely went away that things like eBay and Amazon and the legitimate magnates of today started to just slowly pick up. And Amazon is better for
several years.
Absolutely it did. But that's what organic growth looks like. Every time somebody sees a big green candle, like, oh, cool, we're coming back. And it's like, well, that's not really what things look like. Organic growth looks like hard work, and that's not what anybody wants to hear. But remember, Bitcoin's already been the highest performing investment asset in the last decade. Like by anything, you probably combine the top 100 other things you could have bought, and Bitcoin outperformed them combined. So to say that Bitcoin owes us more upside in the short term, I think is, frankly, I think it's conceited. So, I look at it and say, how are we building value? How are you building value for Bitcoin and the rest of the markets? And why should things go up? For me, it's always about why. The charts are good. I can play short-term, mid-term moves. I can swing trade 10-day trades regardless of market conditions. That's irrelevant. That's great. Make money trading. That's awesome. But as somebody who's looking specifically at fundamental analysis, I have to have a little bit of a longer term bias and look at what's going on with mining economics and other business integration and that kind of thing. And I see more hope than is merited, I think. Actually, as I'm looking at this chart, I see this inverse head and shoulders on the Amazon chart that was the very bottom, it looks like.
All right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a weekly chart. So take it into consideration. The top was in let's say 99, and we didn't break that all-time high until 2009. So what the heck? Imagine waiting 10 years for Bitcoin to break 20K again.
That's why you don't hold bags, people. So
that's a long time to wait. Get back up. It is.
And that's the thing, is people need to remember that, again, Amazon didn't owe anybody anything either. Jeff Bezos built a business to make a profit. It went into bubble zone, which is fine. Everybody was very excited about Amazon in 1999. But I've been saying now for a year and a half, like, if you're excited about Bitcoin at $20,000, you need to ask yourself if you're excited about Bitcoin at $1,000 or $10. Like, does it lose its utility? Are you going to want to have that Bitcoin regardless? And therefore, portfolio management, I mean, there's a demand here. Like, do your homework, manage your portfolio as if it matters, treat the chart as the chart. It doesn't matter if we're bearish or bullish, because even if you only want to play long positions, you can play long positions in a bear market for years and make a lot of money. And that's totally fine. But when we look at the market fundamentally, we need to see actual business integration, actual business growth. We need to see people relying on Bitcoin to do their business every day. And that's when I think we'll start to break that all-time high in a fundamental way and create that floor that we never break back into. Because 50% moves in a day or a week are nuts. They're absurd. That's not what organic growth ever looks like. That's always going to be speculative. and that's okay.
I think that's a good what you said about business in comparing it to Amazon, because how many businesses right now are built on top of Amazon? You could say Amazon is a platform. There's probably millions or thousands of small businesses built on top of Amazon that rely on Amazon for their income.
Yeah. It's the base layer of that generation of internet commerce. Much like people say that Bitcoin will be the base layer of the future of internet commerce. So, we need to remember that. We need to remember that, Bitcoin doesn't owe you anything. What are you going to build on Bitcoin to give it value? And if the answer is nothing, then you need to ask yourself, okay, then who is doing that work? Because building financial vehicles, ETFs, and futures contracts and different things are not people building business value. Somebody's got to be building business value there in order for it to continue to go up in value. So that's the fundamental side of the BTC or the general cryptosphere chart right now. In my opinion, people need to keep their eye on what's going on in the XRP universe, because there's tons and tons and tons of fundamental investment going on in XRP, especially from the big shots. The insiders from the mainstream economy are very much investing in XRP. We saw some pushback from the ultimate Bitcoin bear, Jamie Dimon, the JP Morgan coin now to destroy all blockchains. And the other thing to look at, I think, is the super dark horse across the board is Bitcoin SV. And for anybody that watches anything that I do regularly, I'm definitely a minority in that regard. Bitcoin SV has not performed particularly well this week or this month. However, if you look at it outside of its price action, you look at the development that's happening. There are people leaving the Litecoin Foundation. There's people leaving their Ethereum development projects. There's people coming from various other projects to develop on top of BSV, and they're building fundamental infrastructure there that is meant to, again, slowly subvert the mainstream thought among the cryptosphere and reintegrate business into the Bitcoin SV blockchain based on the original fundamentals there. And if some of their promises end up coming through, what version of Bitcoin has more upside than one that's sitting at $66 right now? So I think that's something to consider both as an investor and as a builder there too. But that's the hedge. It's either going to be some version of Bitcoin or it's going to be some version of like XRP or Hyperledger. And if it's not one of those things, then we're going to be looking at just permissioned blockchainy whatever, like JP Morgan coin, unless you build something, people.
So don't just trade to extract fiat profits.
Yes.
You need to be creating value. Otherwise, it's all going to go to zero.
Yeah, someone has to. And if you can't answer the question, who is, then you're maybe just a degenerate gambler. So be very careful. Be very mindful of how to play that.
There's not many people. That's the thing. There's not a lot of people that are actually doing anything. Everyone, I see a problem with, there's people with hundreds of thousands of social media Twitter followers, social media, whatever. They're starting businesses that are targeted towards people in crypto, and they don't even accept cryptocurrency as payment.
Right.
It just seems ridiculous to me.
Yep, for sure.
Be careful who you follow and support here, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes that really interesting once you peel back the curtain.
Yeah, absolutely. So be vigilant, everybody. Of course, follow us on CryptoTradersPro.com. Join us for Profitable Signals, a community of entrepreneurs, people that want to learn to do business in Bitcoin as well as learn to trade for profit, and a whole bunch of other stuff. We have professional options, derivatives, basic margin traders, basic swing traders, day traders, and everybody else hanging out in our private Discord group every day, learning how to trade, bouncing ideas off of each other, doing charting, talking about mining, staking, masternodes, everything else. We have lots of fundamental chat rooms, and we have lots of technical analysis and trading-based chat rooms. And it's very, very cheap. It's only $97 a month to get to talk to about 200 or maybe 230-ish of the best people in crypto, which are, of course, pro members at CryptoTradersPro.com. Matt, any closing statements before we wrap this one up?
Pay attention to the charts this week and actually all this month. Now is not the time to be sleeping on crypto. Keep an eye on that 4,500 level on Bitcoin. Keep an eye on that $135 billion mark on the total market cap. And that's all I got.
All right, everybody. I'm Kurt Wooker Jr., and that's Matthew John, and we're hoping to someday see you on the moon.
We'll see you on the moon.
Bye, everybody.